Hey, welcome to Hanratty on Karate. A couple of weeks ago, I conducted a grading at the club, and we were having a seminar, Kata seminar at the time. Did some Dan gradings and some Q gradings. So, got me thinking because what I see a lot of is non-teaching organizations awarding Dan grades. Now, I realize a lot of these are honorary grades, and I've seen it happen. And actually, what caused me to leave the Nishiyama organization way back in '89 was the fact that these honorary grades were handed out mainly to people who brought more membership into the ITKF at the time. But we have our grading syllabus posted on our website, and we also have a grading syllabus book with a DVD inside. I did it many years ago, showing what's required for each of your Q grades and your Dan grades. Now, one of the kids who was grading came up to me after he'd passed his grade, I'd given him his belt and all that. He did very well. And he said, why is there so many different colored belts that we have to go through? And I said, well, first of all, you don't have to go through them. It's entirely up to you. We run our gradings twice a year, and if you feel like you're ready to move on to the next grade, that's up to you. It's not something that you have to attain. It's a relatively modern concept, come about round about the mid to late 30s and 40s. And why it came about, and did a little digging, is karate was brought over from Okinawa, and the type of karate I do, Shotokan, was brought over by Funakoshi. Now, Mabuni and Kamal Mabuni and a few others, they brought their styles like Goju and Shitaru. Now, if you were doing any kind of martial arts in Japan at the time, you had to have a regulation because you had to have some kind of criteria that told you who was the instructor and who was the student and at what level the student was. Previous to that in Okinawa, you just did karate, and if you knew karate, then you got a reputation for knowing karate. There was no Dan grades involved. It was kind of like if you're, say, a bricklayer and you laid bricks, you either had a reputation as a good bricklayer or you didn't. You didn't get graded per bricklayer as such. And anyway, so the Butokukai at the time, which was the body that oversaw the martial arts in Japan, stated that there had to be some differentiation between the different levels. And Funakoshi, who was introduced to the Butoka by Jigoro Kano, the founder of Judo, decided to adopt the same belt level systems that Kano had adopted for Judo. This level of Q grades and Dan grades was nothing new, and it wasn't particular to just martial arts. It was used in the game of Go to designate the different levels of mastery, much like chess. You know, you get a grading in chess, 1600 or whatever. When you're going into a tournament, you put your levels down, and eventually you get up to Grandmaster and stuff like that. So anyway, the belt grading levels, the different levels of Q grade and Dan grade, was adopted by karate, by Funakoshi, and subsequently incorporated into the JKA, which Funakoshi was made technical head of. He wasn't technically a member of the JKA. So, as I've done Shotokan all my life, this was very normal to me. Incidentally, Funakoshi never got higher than 5th Dan or Godan. We get a lot of people now who are calling themselves 10th Dan and all the rest of it, and some idiots who will tell you that they're 12th Dan or whatever, and people who are claiming 10th Dan in multi-disciplines, 10th Dan in karate, 10th Dan in judo, 10th Dan in jiu-jitsu, and all that. I don't know exactly when jiu-jitsu adopted the belt system, as I've never been that interested in it, to be honest. But I imagine that they followed the lead of Kano when he went in order to gain access to the Butokukai. So anyway, I was explaining this to the student, and they were very interested. And then they said, well, how do you get to 10th Dan? I said, well, basically, your own organization will determine how valuable you are to that organization, and they'll award you whatever Dan grade they want to. I said, but being honest, and I'm trying to explain this to them, myself, I've only physically graded up to 6th Dan, and that was with AJKA. I tended to double my gradings. I graded with CSKA, which I'm a member of. I've been for many years. And then I'd also grade with another group just to get a little bit more verification as to where I stood in the international field. I'm lucky. My grades have been recognized internationally and hopefully still are. But as I say, I only physically graded up to 6th Dan. So the kid was kind of puzzled when I'm trying to explain to him that people get given honorary grades, even though they don't earn it, or they may not even, in some cases, practice it. It's kind of like an honorary degree from a university, and you'll often get comedians getting an honorary degree from university, or actors, or, just celebrities of one sort or another. For some reason, a university will honor them by giving them an honorary degree. I've no idea why. It doesn't make them any cleverer, for sure. And I don't think if you get an honorary PhD, you should be calling yourself doctor or professor or whatever. And that brought me into the realm of these other titles that are passed around in karate, like Renshi and Shihan and Hanshi and Soku. I'm not really into it at all. My students call me Sensei only in the dojo. I'm not interested what they call me. They call me John outside or Mr. Hanratty. It'd be nice given my age, so I'm okay with that. I've never really pushed for the idea of being a Renshi or a Shihan or a Hanshi or wherever. Just to be recognized for what you do and what you've done should be good enough for you yourself. It doesn't matter what other people think or what other people call you, to be honest. And that's just my opinion. I mean, it's an honor for sure. If most people actually I know do call me sensei, and that's fine, although I may never even have taught them. But that's okay. I'm quite honored with that. But being called Hanshi or Shihan or Renshi, not that bothered, not really interested. And as I say, giving honorary black belt degrees out, I'm not fully in agreement with, especially as in the episodes I've been involved in where people have received honorary black belt degrees have mostly been political. You're either trying to curry favor or glory by association, I call it, or they've brought in a load of mediocre clubs just to swell the numbers of an organization, which was what happened with Nishiyama's group. I just didn't agree with it at all. But as I say, for the gradings I've done, I've physically graded up to 6th Dan, and I got to admit the physical side of it got less and less, or maybe it just got easier as you pass certain grade. Probably my Yondan and Godan gradings were the hardest physically, besides having to write a thesis for my 6th Dan and also writing a paper for my 5th Dan. The physical side of it just got less and less after 4th Dan. And I'm trying to explain this to them. But the time spent between the Dan grades really, to me, was the important part of the Dan grade. You can't just get a Dan grade. I've seen Dan grades, a kid who come up to me at 18, 19 years old, and they go, yeah, I'm a 4th Dan or I'm a Sandan. And that to me, no, you're not. I'm sorry, you're not. I grade my kids to Shodan from 12 and up, and the Shodan isn't recognized as a full grade until they're 18. Then they can grade to Nidan. Then it's going to be 3-4 years before they grade to Sandan, 4 or 5 years before Yondan, and so on. I say we only do gradings twice a year. And I'm looking at my records. I keep a record of every Dan grade I've ever given out, and they're running up somewhere like, 400 or 500 at the moment. And they're all, when you look at some of the dates, you can follow some students' progress from Shodan, Nidan, Sandan, and the years in between are really good. It's the same when I do my instructors' courses and you should be able to do some kind of instruction by the time you get to Nidan and Sandan, or at least some kind of mentoring for a student below you. So I let them come in on the instructor program, and I grade the instructor program accordingly. You can be a C grade instructor, B grade instructor, or A class instructor. And then I have instructors, from that I take instructors who can conduct instructor courses. And that's usually around 6 down. So if you look at it on like a company, when you first enter a company and you start doing the job, everything's new, and you're trying to find your way around, find out who your mates are and all that. And eventually you learn your job. And in that case, you're qualified for your job. And that's basically your showdown. Okay? Right up until that time, you're just wandering around like a Q grade. And then after showdown, you get more and more into your job. You become very proficient at it, and you can move up a grade. And then maybe you'll become a supervisor around about Sandan or something like that. You're probably at lower management level about Sandan, and middle management level about Yondan and Godan. When you get to 6 Dan, you should be almost feel like you're part of the upper management, possibly equity holder in that company. And certainly anything after that, you definitely should feel like you belong to the company and the company belongs to you. It should be the same with whatever organization or karate institution that you're a member of. Loyalty, of course, plays a factor, and it also plays dividends in how you're treated and the respect that you're given throughout that tenure that you're in that organization. And that's why I'm always wary of people claiming multi-dans in multiple systems. You can invest in an organization and get up to that grade level without being truly a part of it and being totally invested in it. So by the time you get to my grade, and this kid was saying, well, you're the highest grade in the organization, so who gives you the next grade? I said, I don't know, and I don't really care. It doesn't bother me. If I do get awarded another Dan, it will be purely honorary, and it certainly won't be for anything I can do physically, and it's certainly not going to be make my karate any better. I think I've gone as far as I can go physically in my karate, and that's about all I can do. Like, there's people who are maybe second or third dans, fourth dans, and they've got a fantastic body, amazing flexibility, wonderful stances, generate tons of power and speed, and have great timing. And these are the guys who were winning competitions in their 20s and 30s, and then they've gone on into instruction and coaching and all the rest of it. And they deserve every grade they've got. And that's the way I did it. I competed as far as I could. I went into coaching, coached for years for provincial, national, international teams. I went into instruction. I brought people along as instructors. I did research into kata. I did research into how you teach, how your body works. I probably got as good an idea of anatomy as most med students. I can explain to you how your body works, how your joint works, what kind of techniques and movements will do damage and what is good for you. All this is ancillary and a part of how you train and what your interest is in it. And I honestly think that's where the extra Dan grades come from. It's all how you tie a life into what you're doing, or tie your life into what you're doing, whichever way you want to think about it. But as I say, the titles don't mean an awful lot to me. Yeah, it's nice to be recognized, but it doesn't make you any better. It doesn't make you any worse. And that's what I tell the kids on the grading. So I say the same thing when I line everybody up for grading. I said, okay, we're all going to do a grading. What you're going to do is show me how good you are for each particular grade that you're going to, what you've learned, and how you can do it to the best of your ability. And whether you pass or fail, you're not going to be any different than you are right now. Okay? Passing isn't going to make you any better than you are now, And failing certainly isn't going to make you any worse than you are now. So just keep that mindset, and we'll move on. And if you keep that mindset through every grade, it doesn't matter what grade you're going for or what grade is awarded to you, you're no better or worse than you are now, okay? And if you're happy with yourself as a person, if you're happy in your abilities, if you're happy with the path that you've chosen, then that's good. And you don't need anybody else to tell you whether you're good or bad. Okay, have a good one. We'll talk to you again. Bye now.